You never guess who I saw this week?
Tell me all about it.
I saw the Holland brothers.
The Holland brothers.
Holland.
Not Tom.
Not Tom, no. The other three I did see, but not Tom.
And where were they?
They were in Uniqlo in Kingston.
Really?
Yes.
Of course, they are local to us.
They are local to us.
Well, maybe Tom will come on the show eventually.
Do you think maybe we could send him this and just kind of go, tell us more, you know? Because you taught them all, didn't you?
Well, I taught 3 of them, but not Tom. Tom was at that time in year 8, I think, and he was getting ready to be in Billy Elliot's in the West End, which was a big start. Mm-hmm. And he borrowed the stage at school for dance lessons. A dance teacher would come in, and that's when I'd moved into my lovely new studio theatre.
Yes.
So I didn't really see much of him.
That's really interesting. I didn't know he did that. That's really interesting.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did actually. And I noticed that coming up in the summer, he's going to appear as Romeo in Romeo and Juliet in the West End.
He is, yes.
And you said something about the tickets being really expensive?
They were, I think, something like 120, which, to be fair, considering the theatre's like a 600 cap, £120 isn't too bad to go and see Tom Holland on stage. But the queue to get tickets, a couple of my friends were in the queue. I didn't bother. Something like you're in the queue of like 40,000 people to get tickets for this show, and it sold out like instantly, basically on that day. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, I did think to myself, well, maybe I'll get in touch with him to see if he needs any help.
Oh, I'm
with
sure.
With the speeches, you know, the long Shakespearean speeches. Be no problem to me.
I'm sure you're his first thought when he comes to Shakespeare. I must get in contact with Neil Z.
Well, I do know his father, so maybe a passing acquaintance with his father. Maybe that will happen.
Maybe chuck a little word in there. Say, how's Tom getting on with rehearsals? Does he need any help?
Yeah, and it's great that he's going into theatre at last again.
I know, because
having made all those movies.
I don't think he's done any, has he, since Billy Elliot?
No, I don't think he has actually. Yeah. And he is a good actor. I would say that he's a good actor. And he must be really, really happy to be getting out of that sweaty lycra as Spider-Man.
He might like it. You never know.
Well, I hope he uses talcum powder. That's all
I'm sure
he
does. Yeah. I remember I saw an interview and he can't drink because there's nowhere for him to drink through. So you have to put a straw through like an eye hole in the mask down to him.
How awful.
So it must be pretty horrible, nasty. Actually. Yeah.
But you're getting a lot of money for it.
Lots and lots of money. Yeah, exactly.
And would you see me as the Marvel
maybe
hero?
Maybe not hero. You've not quite got the how do I put this politely?
Well, look, just because you've started going down the gym again.
Okay.
With I hasten to add, dear listeners, he's made a lot of effort to very little effect so far.
I have been 4 times this week, and to be fair, I've not managed to go consistently to the gym for more than 2 weeks. So come next week, we'll see if I'm still going.
Oh, I will I? Oh,
yeah,
right, there we go.
We'll see. Hopefully I am. I'm glad I'm saying it on the podcast now, because now I feel like I owe it to our listeners to keep going to the gym.
Yes, exactly. I'm beyond it now, of course.
No, never say never.
Oh, well, really?
Do you want to? Why don't you come down with me one day and we can do
I
a little...
will. Yeah, well, let's do a podcast.
Let's do a podcast, a little workout.
A little workout. That would be absolutely brilliant. I could talk to you in between gasps of air.
It would be great, actually. Well, there's another idea. Write that down.
I will. Well, here we go.
Welcome to Hello Dear, the podcast where age is just a number and opinions come with a touch of laughter. I'm Ciaran, the young perspective on the twists and turns of life today.
And I'm Neil, the seasoned voice of yesterday, with a flair for drama and a love for life. Together we're here to chat about everything under the sun, from the latest trends, the timeless tales of our own experiences. So grab your favourite beverage, get comfy, and join us as we explore the complexities of life.
So what are we going to talk about today, Neil? What's on today's agenda? What are we talking about today?
Look, get your act together.
I know, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm a regular subscriber of a magazine called The Week. I don't know whether you've heard about it or not. It's a digest of the week's news.
I'd never have guessed that.
Well, and basically what they do is they scan all the news and obviously all the media, and they put out articles or parts of articles that might be interesting.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. And they also do arts reviews. So if there's a play on or a new movie on, they'll actually put together comments from all the critics to give a kind of balanced view. which is the first page I look at.
I was going to say,
obviously.
this is, I think this is all your knowledge, but no, it's just coming straight from the magazine then.
Thank you, dear. Here's a little bit of information that may interest us both.
Okay.
And our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This is from the Daily Telegraph a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
As you know, I've been away to Budapest.
Of
And I've
course.
been catching up on my many editions of the week. In order to show that our railway stations are safe and inclusive, Network Rail has just unveiled a Pride pillar at London Bridge Station. This is a concrete pillar decorated with dozens of colourful flags, each representing a different sexual minority.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a very good idea. It's another sign that we have more visibility in the community at large. It's a mainline station. It's very, very busy. Though less busy now because people often work from home.
Or the trains are cancelled because they're all over the place.
Exactly, as it happened yesterday to me. I think it's quite a good idea to have something that's kind of... The problem with it is, what's its purpose? Is it celebrating different kinds of gender? Is it there as a colourful pillar?
So we looked at a picture of this just before we started recording, just to have a look, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We've done a little bit of research, viewers.
We have. We don't just sit down and have a chat, you know. We do we do try our best here.
Well, we do.
We do. And, well, it looks a bit shit, really, doesn't it? I mean, when it said like a pride pillar, I thought, great, there's going to be, you know, text, there's going to be, you know, here's this identity, here's what you can learn. It's a shitty concrete pillar with a couple of flags stuck on it. Like, it doesn't do anything for me.
Viewers, listeners rather, please replace the word shit with bland. I think that's the word you really wanted to use.
It's a bit bland.
That's better.
Yes, there we go.
There we go, Ciaran.
Sorry.
Yes, I mean, I think it's a step in the right direction. And as I've always said to you, with my historical perspective, it's always been small steps with the LGBT plus community anyway. And it's in a mainline station. It's there. Though whether people will look at it much, I don't know, because they're busy getting to where they've got to be.
Do you think this is a step in the right direction or the step in the same direction that we've kind of been going in now for a while? Like, are commuters who see this, one, being educated? There's no text at all, these are purely just the colourful flags. Actually, you know, while we're here, I did some research, like we said, and there was some...
showing off now.
I am showing off. I wanted to see what people's reactions to this were, because when you initially told me you thought this was a great idea, and I thought, yes, it's a great idea, but it's, again, just reaffirming sexuality, and, you know, it's kind of going, oh, people in the LGBTQ plus community exist, and here's their flags. And I don't think it really pushes us much further. And there was this really interesting quote that someone put, which goes back to what we were saying about trains being delayed and all over the place. This is a quote, a reaction to the pillar, which again, I'm just looking at the picture of, and it looks terrible. And the quote is, "I don't need my sexuality affirmed at a railway station. I just want the trains to run on time."
Well, that's very true.
And I think it does pretty much sum it up. I don't think seeing the flags without any context does anything other than confuse people more. If you're not educated on the LGBTQ plus community and identities and what they mean, I don't think seeing a bunch of colours on a pillar is going to do that for you. It's not going to educate you, is it?
And I don't necessarily think people want to be educated as well. There is that. You know, maybe they think they know all about it already. They're going to a station to catch a train. I mean, they may be sitting around waiting a while, having a Greggs or whatever. But is that the moment when they want to be educated, you know? Is that the right place for them to be educated? But however, as I say, I do think the community has more visibility now than obviously it used to have. Certainly than when I was a young man, there was no visibility whatsoever, really, except the odd film or play or, you know, that kind of thing. Or a book or something that's dealing specifically with the issue of sexuality.
Yeah.
And this all has gradually grown. as I say to you all the time, I've got the historical perspective. When I was at school, I used to be hysterical. Now I'm historical. But it's so that they are steps in the right direction, and they're small steps. Like, for instance, Pride Week is celebrated now a little bit around in our in the country, in the UK. The big firms like M&S and John Lewis have celebrate Pride Week with their merchandise, which I think is another way of trying to sell stuff.
I think this is the problem.
So
if we go back to the pillar, and you saying that we've come a long way since you were growing up.
Yeah.
Had this pillar been done in your day, maybe it would have been a powerful thing.
Well, it would have been
would have turned
unimaginable.
Heads, and people would have gone, whoa, okay, this is now something we're going to, have to get used to. I think that's where, visibility starts and understanding starts is, okay, we don't have a choice but to learn about this in a way. And I think had that been done in the 80s, it would have been really powerful. But in the 2020s, where I think the London Bridge, like you said, a huge commuter train station, I would say that maybe 60-70% of the people passing through there know what the LGBTQ plus community is. Probably a higher percentage than that. And I think they'll just see the flags and go, oh, more LGBTQ stuff. I think we've pushed it so far now. People are used to seeing... People know what a gay flag looks like. A gay flag in itself, or a lesbian flag, any of the flags in themselves, don't do anything anymore. They represent a community. But it's no different to putting the flags of the world on a pillar. That doesn't stop racism, does it?
No. And also, it's the metropolis. I mean, a lot of gay people live in the metropolis. They live in the big city.
Yeah.
It's always been the migration of gay people from small places to the big cities. So a lot of people going through there will either be part of the community themselves, or they'll have friends, or they'll be sympathetic in some way.
Yeah.
Really. I've got a funny story here. I'll tell you.
Go on.
My dear friend Alan, for my 50th birthday, took me to Venice.
Oh, very nice. I'm off there in the summer.
Wonderful place. I need to go back. And we arrived by train. And on the way there, I saw all these rainbow flags everywhere. And I thought, gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, they weren't LGBT plus rainbow flags. They were flags for peace.
Yes.
The peace symbol is also the rainbow symbol. And that's wonderful, I think, that the two are put together.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, oh my gosh, either there are a lot of gay bars around Venice or everybody's putting out the flags for me. As I arrive in Venice, La Serenissima is serenading me. But I agree with you. I think it is wonderful, for instance, that the Mayor of London has put out these zebra crossings that are in the rainbow colours and all of that kind of business. I remember going into Kingston High Street and there it was.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that's
I know, I remember
brilliant.
seeing it. I was like, oh, that's great, yeah.
That's brilliant. But
does it make you feel safer? Does it make you think, oh, people will understand me better?
I think, in a way, a false sense of security.
Yeah.
But it's still a move ahead compared with what there was.
Agreed.
And we must be thankful for that. But it is a move ahead, but it is a false sense of security because you can be led to believe that now everybody is simpatico with the LGBT plus community. And that's not necessarily the case. And sometimes you get a slap in the face when you see something on the television, when you hear someone make a comment, when you see something on the media, and you realise that this is not the case,
Yeah.
And when you look particularly in areas of America,
Yes.
where there's legislation against the community,
More and more legislation.
a lot of violence against the community, people being murdered, we're reminded that life has not moved on completely.
No, it's important to say that's also in Britain as well. I mean, we saw there's the rise of Brianna and the rise of especially trans deaths and murders. Just horrific and horrible. And I actually want to raise the point here. So the people that put this pillar in is National Rail.
Yeah.
And I think we need to think, as a company, if we were behind National Rail, what can they do to actually improve the lives of LGBTQ plus people? They have a
Passengers.
responsibility. Passengers.
Passengers.
That's their clients at the end of the day, or their customers are passengers.
Yeah.
Is this pillar helping them? And I want to bring up these more statistics here because I think this is really important.
We're full of statistics today, listeners.
I love a little bit of research every now and then. This is why it's this is actually part of to do with my dissertation, which I've mentioned before.
Yeah.
Was about activism and what was effective and what's not. So if we think about National Rail put this together, and what do we hear more and more about is hate crimes on public transport, which is what National Rail is.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Making cuts to that. And to the public sector, and there's not as much funding, which I understand, but this pillar probably cost them £100 to put up.
Yeah.
What could they have done? And if we look at, I purely just wanted to Google hate crimes in general. This is across the whole of the UK as a general idea. And if you look at the year of 2018 to 2019, sexual orientation had 14,000 hate crimes across the whole of the UK. This isn't just on public transport. This is across
that were reported, don't forget.
These are reported, exactly. Yeah. And if we look at the same for this year, it's 24,000. So it's gone up by 10,000 reported hate crimes just purely based on sexual orientation. And for trans people, it's gone from just over 2,000 to nearly 5,000 in the space of 4 or 5 years. Now, it has dropped last year to the year before, but not by enough to look at that and go, this is good. It's kind of, I'd say it's an anomaly more than anything. And I think we need to look at National Rail and what they could have done. I'm sure they had more than hundreds of pounds to spend on this kind of marketing, essentially, is what it is, isn't it? It's a marketing campaign. And
well, they could, for a start, they could have. What about the other pillars in the station? It's a very large concourse.
Why only one is dedicated?
Yeah, or have a different one for each orientation, as you suggested earlier, when we're having a cup of coffee.
Well, this if they'd
or I mean, I don't think a pillar in a station is the right place to try and educate people with a. It's not a museum, if you know what I mean.
No, but at the same time, it's a lot of public eyes, and I wouldn't totally agree with that. I think it can be a good place if done effectively.
Yes.
Because if you think, I use Waterloo more. That's probably my most common station to walk through. And don't get me wrong, when there's little, those little exhibitors and stalls that are in the middle of the station, I do stop and look at them if they look interesting.
Yeah.
I do engage with them. And there's my word.
A photograph. If they had a different pillar for each orientation,
and maybe
an exhibition, someone with a photograph who was willing to have their photograph put there, that might be.
But they do these photographic exhibitions for like the 25 best landscape photos.
Yes, and all
and
that.
And they do that in the stations.
Yeah.
Why is there not that? There's nothing to read. This pillar doesn't tell you anything or give you anything to learn. It's purely just colours on a.
Well, it's kind of the same as, you go through John Lewis or M&S in Pride Week and we celebrate Pride. We celebrate Diwali. We celebrate this. It's another way of selling merchandise. I mean, it's great that these shops are doing this. They're aware of the whole community, which our country is, multicultural and
which is fantastic. And I think it makes Britain. It is
very like important. And I think you wouldn't find this in other countries at all. But it's a good, again, a step in the right direction. And obviously M&S and John Lewis can't do much else, really.
No.
But we need to make our platforms more safe,
I think this is the thing. And like I said to you earlier, if I'm, I feel for trans people at this moment in time. I think LGBTQ plus people as a whole, we're not progressing, and if anything, we're going back, and laws are changing, and there's less support for us now. But trans people in particular are really suffering at the minute. And if I was a trans person using public transport, I don't think I'd feel safe at this moment in time.
No.
And I don't think one pillar in the most popular station in London, or one of the biggest in London, is going to make me feel safer. Seeing more police, knowing the police would actually give a shit also. Yeah. There's no come here if you need support. There's, like in bars, they've got that, say, I can't remember the name, and you go up to the bar staff and you ask for, it's a name, and then they'll come and support you and they'll take you to a separate room if you think you've been spiked or something.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
I don't go in the bars that you go in now. I'm too old for that kind of thing.
Yes, you are. Yeah, very much so. But although we must go to heaven, I think that'd be good fun. I'm not sure if they let you in. You probably are too old to get in.
Well, you know my story about heaven.
Remind me of your story. Go on, tell us the story again.
I was there a long time ago, and I had been to the Donmar warehouse. It was a Saturday night to see a cabaret by a wonderful singer called Barbara Cook. She was a Broadway star, and she'd never appeared in England before. After that, she came quite a lot. She's a wonderful singer. And a friend of mine got tickets, and she was on at 8 o'clock in the evening, and I think she was on at 10:30 or 11 or whatever. We went to the 11 o'clock with a friend of ours from America, who was a great fan of hers. And it was a great occasion. Quite a lot of theatre people were in, you know, because she was a big star and they wanted to hear and everything. So we come out of there and we dressed up. We were in suits or jackets and all that. The night bus, there wasn't a night bus for an hour. I think they're more frequent now. So we went to heaven for an hour. Or, you know, we thought, let's go and do something. It's a lovely evening. It was a summer's evening. So there we are, all dressed up. And, you know, obviously everyone in heaven is in shorts and T-shirts and God knows what. This was the 80s, by the way. And they're all prancing around and everything. And we've got ourselves a drink and all that. And it's quite cavernous, is heaven. It's labyrinthine, you know.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
It's
all
rather like
tunnels
some labyrinth that a classical hero would go through, like
Is that how you
Theseus
feel?
and the Minotaur, you know.
I don't
Mind
think-
you, Theseus would find a few other things than the Minotaur in there, I can tell you. So there we were, and we had our drinks and everything. It was very dark in there and dry ice and everything. So I felt at home with the dry ice. And I wanted to go to the gents, the toilet, you see. So I'm going around this corridor and trying to find the gents, and there was the door which said with a sign, you know, which said men. And this man suddenly stopped me and said, "You can't go in there. You're not dressed properly." And I said, "Excuse me." I said, I'm in a suit here. I've got certain ties. He said, "No," he said, "that's only for the leather people." So I was incorrectly dressed to go, but I went in there anyway. I was just for a pee, you know. They're all in there in their chaps, with their chaps.
Oh,
They're in their chaps,
In their chaps.
with their chaps. There we are.
What a
There's
great
my
story.
heaven story.
Yes. Well, back to what I was saying. Angela is then that you'll ask for Angela at the bar, and they'll take you to a separate room, and they'll check
Really?
you're okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I must meet Angela sometime. Yeah.
She seems like a lovely woman if she's going to keep you safe. Going back to that point of just, this is National Rail, and they have money, they have funding, albeit they're making cuts. But if they're going to do something like this, they need to do it properly, and they need to make LGBTQ plus people feel safer when, at the minute, it's becoming a more tricky time to be out and in public and feel safe.
I think also it's this business of we feel that we're in a liberal society because people around us who live around us, who we know, are fairly liberal. And it can be a false sense of security. Having said that, you know, if you going back to those statistics about reported crimes,
Yeah.
there would be a lot of people who didn't report a crime.
Probably more than that were reported.
Exactly.
If we're
And in
being-
my day, when I was a young man, you wouldn't. You
No.
wouldn't.
And I think there's still
Because
that fear.
you could get in trouble yourself.
Yeah, of course, because it was illegal, wasn't it, up until a point?
Yeah, I mean, and even after it was made legal, the police were still after people, you know. So I mean, you know, you run the risk. You're scared to go to the police, you know, and I'm sure people still are scared. To
I was
go
going to say, I think that's happening again.
you know,
Is that people don't feel the full support of the police, and I don't know who you.
Ciaran, it's always been happening.
Yeah.
It's not happening again. It's always been happening.
Yeah.
And it's a sad situation. The police, I think, are a lot better at this now. They're obviously more aware and more sympathetic than they were. And a crime is a crime, whoever it's committed on,
Yeah.
basically. It's a false sense of security is the word I keep coming back to.
It is, and I think it comes down to education. And if we take, say, the Met Police, you know, another public sector, had done a similar campaign like this,
Yeah.
do you think that would have? Do you think we'd be having the same conversation? Because I think we would. You know, if they got every officer to wear like a pride pin or something, like I think
there are very few gay policemen on police,
which I'm not surprised
I
by. Or if they are, I think it's like being in the army a bit, and you know, you're scared to come out and tell your colleagues a bit because it will be kind of it's seen as a weakness again, isn't it? Sadly, where if anything, I think you're a stronger person if you can openly, you know, come out. Yeah. It's a tricky one, and I think it comes back to, I think the people behind these sorts of campaigns are marketing heads, and there's a lot of copying others. Like you said, a pride flag doesn't do anything anymore, especially during Pride. We see this commercialisation of the LGBT community, and I think people are a bit fed up of it, especially in the LGBT community.
You're talking here about the Pride March.
Yes, the Pride March, and I actually went this year for the first time in a while.
I've never been.
You've never been?
It never...
Not even when it was a protest rather than a big commercial...
As I said, I was never really an activist. It wasn't my thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then it became another rock concert, you know. And it's one of the... It's like Glastonbury and all the rest of it, which is not my kind of music. And you know, so I didn't really... I must go one time.
We should go.
We should go.
Maybe we should go this year and plan it, and maybe meet a few listeners.
And we'll have a podcast at Pride.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
That sounds very alliterative. A podcast at Pride.
The Pride pod. Well, we won't be the Pride pod. Yeah, I think we should do it. We should get working on the plans for that. But
I mean, going back to being historical.
Yeah. Well, Pride's changed, hasn't it? I think we need to remember that Pride used to be a protest.
Yeah.
Should still be a protest. This year there was a better amount of trans pride and protest, but still not enough, and it was still washed by these big corporate companies that maybe they do, and they're probably in the Stonewall top 100 employers for people in the community, like National Rail is, although albeit there are 100 on the list. But you know, I'm not saying these are bad companies who treat LGBTQ plus people badly, but I don't need to see a Tesco's lorry with the rainbow colours on it going past me. I need to see the next push in the LGBT community. I need to see better awareness, better education, because straight people go to Pride. They think it's a great, you know, it's like the Mardi Gras. It's fantastic, but we need a push. We need to go in the right direction again, rather than getting caught up in this commercial spiral where it's all just people are making money. Primark, they all come out. Yeah, it's the pink pound, exactly.
I mean, I know that now they have around the gay bars in Soho. They have a Soho festival, don't they?
Around Pride.
Around the gay bars in Soho.
Yeah.
They used to have a festival. It's another excuse to make money.
Well,
you know,
I think when it's the Soho gay bars, I feel less like it's making money out of gay people.
Yes, exactly, because they'll be there anyway.
They're serving the community, and that's their job.
Yeah.
Whereas it's companies like Primark, you know, you're a clothes store, don't sell your big kind of... Like you have a whole Pride section around Pride, which is great if you want, you know, like a nice Pride item. But where does that money go? It goes straight into Primark's hands, who probably haven't got the best reputation as a company anyway.
Yeah.
Rather than into charities, and maybe some of them give a percentage of that. But I don't. Anyway, we're running away.
I mean, we don't know what happens with the sponsors of the Pride.
Well, I think this is the other concerning thing.
We don't know. I mean, it's great that they're sponsoring it. They're putting money into it. Whether they give some of that money back to the community or for charities, we don't know. So we can't really comment.
No, we can't. You're right. And maybe there is a lot more going on. But I wish it was public knowledge and we did know, because I think that would make us have more confidence in it.
But there is, you know, I think you're right. It does boil down to education. Yeah. Really. And how people are educated, how they're made more aware of other communities.
Yes,
to their own. Other communities to their own. I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it?
That's what these people need to be looking at when they're going to run campaigns like this, is they need to actually go, will this educate? Will this teach people? Will this make them more aware of the problems and how they can impact those problems to improve the life of LGBTQ plus community?
Exactly.
Imagine if National Rail had put how many reports of harassment for trans people had happened on their network. If they were open and honest about it and went, this is how bad it is, we need to improve this as a community. Because albeit, National Rail can't fix the problem.
No,
They can
can't.
make people
No.
feel safer.
They're
but
there
they
to run the
can't-
trains.
Exactly. that is what they're there for. But rather than, trying to kind of go, oh, we're supporting, gay people and queer people, they need to think about these campaigns seriously and how they run them and what will actually make an impact. And unfortunately, it's always the smaller companies that get it right and you never hear about it. Whereas someone with a responsibility like National Rail could do a lot better. I think that's basically what I'm trying to say, is they could do a lot better and there could be a lot more learned from it. And I hope in the future they do look at this and look at what people have said. And at the end of the day, go back to that quote at the beginning, I just want my trains to run on time. I don't need reaffirming of, that I'm gay by seeing a gay flag. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, it's looking at where the best place is to educate, the best way of educating.
That's it.
You can't just put these flags up and expect people to understand it.
But they're there.
But they're there, and
They're
it's
there.
a good thing. It may not be pushing things forward, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And like we said, it comes down to education, which I think we'll probably end up talking about next week after our conversations is...
Yes.
We've both had very different educations around identity, sex at school, and we're 50 years apart as well and how that's changed. So I think next week we'll probably end up talking a bit about that.
We will.
Yeah, so tune in next week for that. I would also like to say, those of you with a keen eye may have noticed that we pre-recorded the first 2 episodes. If you are watching on TikTok and see that our clothes didn't change. We wanted to be prepared, and I just want to say the support we've had on this podcast has been insane already. I was just showing Neil, because I'm the tech whiz out of the two of us here, and I run all the behind the scenes and the TikTok accounts, and Neil just looks
He
pretty.
loves his statistics.
I don't
He's
know
all
what's got into me
statistics.
today. But I just want to say thank you so much for the support. I had no idea this was going to kind of...
It has taken off phenomenally
Yeah.
well, I think.
And we're really happy.
And again, small steps.
Small step. And you know what? We're having fun, and we hope you are having fun. And, we'll continue doing that. And
Exactly. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
next week. Yeah. You've been listening to Hello Dear, presented by Ciaran and Neil. Follow us wherever you listen to podcasts for a new episode every single Wednesday. In the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok under @HelloDearPod, and you'll find bonus content and behind-the-scenes stuff there. Want to get involved further? Then for Spotify listeners, you can interact with our Q&As on each episode. And for all other platforms, including Spotify, just click the link in the description of this podcast to send us a written or voice-recorded message. See you next week.